Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining us for our webinar. This is Growth Through Service, Why CX is Essential Right Now. My name is Allie Fisher. I'm the Marketing Operations Manager here at SugarCRM, and I'll be your technical support. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers. With us, we have, off camera, we have Clare Dorrian, our Chief Marketing Officer. We also have Chris Pennington, who is our Chief Customer Officer, and Clint Oram, who is Chief Strategy Officer and also co-founder of SugarCRM. He will be leading this in the roundtable discussion. So with that, I will hand it off to Clint. Thank you.
Thanks, Allie. Yes, it's a very chiefly group of people you have here today. Quite a dispersed group of people as well, kind of a sign of the times, right? As we're all working from our home offices. This is my lovely home office here, and I'm in Silicon Valley where the weather is beautiful and it's another gorgeous day out there. Claire is joining us from San Francisco. Chris is joining us from Denver, Colorado, and Allie there was just joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. So definitely a very virtual group as we take a chance to have a little discussion with you guys about what customer experience is, what it means, and how you can be thinking about this concept during today's challenging times. So let's jump into it. At the very beginning, how would you define customer experience? Pause and think about that for a moment. Right? We're all in business. I'm sure those of us here on today's session all have some sort of role where we're working with customers on a day-to-day basis, and many of us probably have the job to create a customer experience. But I find this term to be a bit confusing at times, right? Lots of different people have lots of different opinions of what the term customer experience means. I've kind of joked about it many times. If you ask 3 different analysts what customer experience means, you'll get 9 different answers, right? So let's kind of cruise through a few of these different answers, if you will, and get a sense for how the analyst community, the thought leaders out there, would describe to you what a customer experience is. So from Ian here, we have CX is a representation of everything an organization does to contribute to the delivery of the end-to-end customer experience. Some words that kind of jump out at me are certainly everything that an organization does, and end-to-end, that jumps out at me as well. Let's hear from another thought leader out there from Harvard Business Review. Let's see what Andrew has to say. Customer experience is the internal and subjective response customers have to any direct or indirect contact with a company. So that response that a customer has as they interact with you, that's what he's really focusing in on. And let's see what Blake has to say. Customer experience can include a lot of elements, but it really boils down to the perception a customer has of your brand. Perception. Again, kind of these softer words in here, perception and subjective response and that sort of thing. So kind of the marrying together, if you will, the practical realities of running a business with the emotional response that your customers have when they're interacting with your business. Let's see what Gartner has to say. Of course, it's Gartner. They've got more words than anybody else. I think they're sometimes paid by the syllable, but let's see what Gartner has to say. The customer's perceptions and related feelings caused by the one-off and cumulative effect of interactions with a company's employees, systems, channels, or product, everything an organization does to contribute to the delivery of the end-to-end customer experience. So as I look at this one, and what leaps out at me is certainly that idea of the cumulative effect and how it's across all the different channels, employees, offline, online, everything like that. And again, bringing back that idea of end to end. So let's wrap up here with what Harley has to say from Forrester. I like Harley, fewer words, right to the point. How customers perceive their interactions with your company. Simple as that. How they perceive their interactions with your company. All right, let's dig into that a little bit more. So we, of course, have our own definition because, that's what you got to do these days. We have our own definition of CX here at SugarCRM. And these are the words that we chose. And we put a lot of thought into these words. These words are not just something that came out of thin air. These are ideas that we spend a lot of time building, a lifetime commitment to our customers to provide value and support that gives them an effortless experience. Some key words that really jump out at me: lifetime, right? This isn't around just one interaction. This is around the entire lifetime of working with that customer. Value, that word really jumps out. That's probably one of the most important words to me as a CRM expert. I guess after 20 years in this industry, I might be able to self-title myself an expert here. But one of the most important words to me is value. Business is about that value exchange. And effortless really jumps out at me. I'm going to come back to that word effortless in here in just a minute, because when I think of an exceptional experience, to me, that's one that requires just the least amount of effort possible for your customers and your employees. So there's some ideas to get things started, right? Some ideas on how we would describe what a customer experience is. I think we're all kind of seated in around this idea. It's this marrying together of customer perceptions and your business operations and how you shape those perceptions. So let's now jump into some more ideas behind this, because kind of set the stage for the discussion that Claire, Chris, and I are going to have in just a moment. So first off, this report coming from Watermark Consulting that they've been doing for years now, where they've gone out, and this is a great report to do a Google search on and track it down. We'll be sending you links to it afterwards, but it basically measures the stock value of publicly traded companies for those that invest heavily in their customer experience and those who don't really invest at all, and measuring that against the S&P 500 index, right? So the idea that comes out through here, and the folks at Watermark Consulting have been doing this particular research report for over 11 years now, since the last recession in 2008. They have been researching this topic of which companies do best out there, and if they invest in their customer experience, does it have some real practical results? And you can see the numbers here on the screen, which, you know, I think the one that leaps out the most is those that invest do 3 times better than those that don't invest in their customer experience. So if there's any key idea for you to take back to your business to your business leaders around you as to why you should be investing in your customer experience strategy, I think this really stands out. In fact, there's some other research that Watermark Consulting has done where they measured those companies coming out of the recession in 2008, and the CX leaders rebounded so much faster than anybody else, of course, against the CX laggards. So let's dig into this idea of customer experience just a little bit more. Last framing idea, and then we're going to move into our fireside chat here. So friends at Gartner have been doing a lot of research around what does it mean to deliver an exceptional customer experience. And kind of the key premise that so many people go into is they think about orchestrating the experience that their customers have along that journey of engaging with the company, is that they had to deliver feel-good moments of delight, right? That every interaction had to be just an absolutely fantastic, stupendous interaction. But that's challenging to deliver as a business. It's expensive to deliver as a business, right? Sure, I might appreciate getting an Amazon gift card every time I submit a support case to a particular company. Maybe once, actually, maybe twice. Do I really appreciate the Amazon gift card? No, not really. Actually, I just want the interaction to be super seamless. I don't need a gift card from a company to say thank you for interacting with us. I just want it to work. I just want it to be seamless. I want it to be effortless. I just want to get my answer, move on, get going. Think about DoorDash, right? Think about Amazon.com. Think about these companies that you're interacting with where you wouldn't even bother if it wasn't absolutely effortless for you. And so Gartner's done a lot of research around this idea of effortless customer experience and ultimately how it directly impacts loyalty, retention, reducing churn. And they have hard facts behind the idea that an effortless CX is not only less expensive to deliver to customers, but it actually results in higher retention of your customers. So, some key ideas in here that I think you should all be thinking about as we orchestrate our customer experience. All right, how we doing? Everybody ready to jump in and have the fireside chat? I've got my fireplace in the background here, but like I said, it's a beautiful day in Silicon Valley. I'm not going to turn on my fire today, but we do have the fireside chat ready to go. And with me, I have two of my colleagues who I've just been really excited to have this discussion with all of you online here today. As I said, Clare Dorrian, our Chief Marketing Officer, Chris Pennington, our Chief Customer Officer. Their job is to think about this topic every day. Let's just first do some quick introductions. Clare, say hi to the folks online.
Hi guys, Clare Dorrian here. And firstly, apologies, notable by my absence on video camera. Pretty much a sign of the times, right, Clint? No IT support. I'm working at home. Despite having a Cisco engineer in my marriage, he proved himself useless. But great to be here, and really looking forward to the discussion today.
There you go. All right. Well, sorry your camera's not working today. Everything was working fine before. That's IT for you at times, and maybe have to send your husband back to a training class or something like that, right? So, all right. And Chris Pennington, please introduce yourself. Say hi to the group here.
Yeah, hello, Clint. Hello, everybody. Delighted to be here. I love talking about customer experience. I think today is going to be a fantastic webinar, just covering a bunch of material we've got prepared. I think going back to Claire's comment, one of the elements I would say here is important is adaptability, and we're seeing that very much now in all of our interactions. You might find my camera goes off. I noticed in recent weeks that since spring break and the children getting onto the internet early in the morning, that variability of bandwidth goes up and down throughout the day, particularly in the morning. So we all have to be adaptable, I think, in a new world.
The web hogs in the neighborhood log in and they start sucking up all the bandwidth and it goes choppy. Yeah, that's the world we live in. I'm actually personally so tired of hearing the term new normal, right? I want to go back to the old normal myself, but no point in whining. Life is what life is right now, and we're going to dig into that actually a bit more in this discussion here, so that our audience members can be going back to their leadership with ideas, practical ideas that they can be putting into action to really up-level their company's customer experience, but also adjust it. So let's dig into that first idea of adjusting your company's customer experience to the times that are happening right now. And we'll start off by introducing another idea here. We've talked about customer experience. We've talked about perceptions and the cumulative effect that the customer experience represents for a customer, for a prospect. Another idea I want to introduce here is the idea of a customer journey. So every company has a set of steps that they've designed for their prospects, for their customers to follow as that individual or group of individuals first identify that they have a need, start researching the market around them, how they can solve that need, start learning about your company, right? And the products and services that you deliver as a company, and go through the whole process of purchasing and then becoming a customer, and ultimately, your job is to turn them not just into a customer, but into a loyal advocate. That whole process is called the customer journey, right? The whole idea of looking at those interactions through the lens of the customer. So Chris, question for you to kick us off here. How can companies adapt yesterday's customer journey to today's global business challenges? Got some concrete thoughts for us on that one?
Yeah, I think so. So I think the first thing to note is, look, it's a long-term game. And in terms of the overall journey, the journey itself may not have changed per se, but what's important is to adapt the journey. And we're going to talk about some practical examples of where that comes into effect. So I think if we go back to the concept of it being, you're in for a long-term, go back to our definition, a lifetime commitment to customers. One of the things I would encourage deeply in this sense is to avoid transactional thinking. And I think that's a critical element. Whatever your actions are, they need to be congruent with your core values, and making sure that what you're doing sets your perceptions and examples with customers throughout the lifetime of the journey. The key to successful customer experience really hasn't changed. You need to deliver consistent, superior service. But probably what we have seen change in recent years is this element that you need to move from delighting customers to this concept of effortless experience. I think at the end of the day, we all need to be in a position where we are looking to achieve the most we can from our experience over time, and recognizing that for any journey, for any relationship, there will always be ups and downs. And if you're trying to display, if you're trying to fake a delightfulness, then I think it will be your undoing. You can do it for some period of time, but you can't do it continuously. What you need to focus on is how do you make that effort, that experience with customers throughout the journey effortless. But in today's environment, I think one of the elements there that's important to recognize is that there's different stages to where we're at. We're certainly seeing with COVID-19 that there are 3 distinct phases that are impacting on the customer journey. We saw the initial response. We've moved into the new norm, I think, and then we need to plan for the rebound. And you've seen practical examples of that. If you look at the response phase, you saw Amazon immediately giving $100 million to support local food banks. You saw the airlines easing restrictions on how they could change bookings. We ourselves here at Sugar, we provided a forum for organizations, a connection hub to share experiences, to work through practical examples, and we provided free training to customers. We were in that response mode, but each of those were congruent with our core values. They weren't transactional thinking in what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, kind of coming back to that genuine concept that you introduced a moment ago. So as we responded, we really, you really focused hard on making sure that our responses were genuine, right?
Being genuine and authentic is critical, and we'll come back to that, I think, throughout this whole session and how we deliver those. They may be glib cliches, but they are critical in how you deliver on that customer journey. I think the other good example is the new norm. We've seen other examples of customers. We were talking about Madison Reed, who's a hair coloring stylist, products, and they saw a distinct shift in having bricks and mortar stores to finding that in the new norm people had to color their hair and they do it from home, and they shifted their workforce from being on the ground to being virtual employees without dropping a heartbeat, without furloughing or letting people go. But it was a good example of pivoting in the moment and making sure that in the customer journey they were thinking about how do they adapt to adjust to the changing dynamics of where the customer's needs are. So I think one of the elements that comes through for me strongly, one of the things I read in recent times was a blog from the TSIA, the Technology Services Industry Analysts, and the title of that was "Helping Will Sell, Selling Won't Help." And I think we can all draw from that at this stage. It's a very poignant sort of cliche comment. I've seen other examples, and I've spoken to a lot of customers in recent weeks. One of our customers, Athena Health, they pivoted their staff, their sales staff, into a support mode. They recognized that as part of the customer journey, they needed to put the resources where the need was required at that time. And so this concept that they're shifting at that phase from helping to helping, which will sell, from selling, which won't help. And I thought that was a very good example of shifting minds.
That's a good phrase there. Yeah, I like that. The part that really kind of jumped out at me was those 3 phases that you talked about. The initial response, which is kind of always a little chaotic at first, and then turning into the new normal, and then planning for the rebound, right? And that's a good way of thinking about the what's happening right now in the stages around us. And let's actually come back to that idea of planning for the rebound in a few minutes. I got some more questions on that one. I am laughing at how you use the hair coloring example. How do you turn your salon personnel into online advisors for how to color your hair? Maybe I might need a little help now. I got a lot of gray in my hair, but I got to tell you one thing that if there's one thing I'm looking forward to, of getting back to the old normal, whenever that is getting a haircut. Man, my hair has not been this long in 2 years. I don't think I'm going to try cutting my hair at home though. That's the one thing where I'm going to draw the line on that one. All right, so let's go ahead and shift gears. Let's go to another topic here. And Claire, aligning departments
Yeah.
across your company is always a challenge, right? That's probably from my perspective as a business leader, the single hardest challenge is getting different departments to work well together in lockstep so that it looks like this seamless, effortless journey from the customer's experience. You know, there's everything from differing success metrics to differing priorities to just differing personality types in the different departments. So tell me, how can companies rethink aligning marketing and customer service for this new normal that Chris and I have been talking about?
Well, I think the first thing is you need to put those differences to one side. There was never a better time to put those differences to one side and be, and be aligned, because quite frankly, you know, the best way to ensure stability for your business and for your customers during this time is to put them first. Not put what makes you as an individual, as a marketing team, as a customer service team successful. You need to put your customer hat on. And, you know, it's like a good marriage, right? You've always got to be working to improve it. You've always got to be growing, you know, the relationship. Now is not the time for divorce. I think practically speaking as well, Clint, you know, one of the exercises that I would encourage those of you on the line that sit in, you know, marketing, customer service, and frankly, sales roles is to look at your customer accounts. You know, right now, there are many industries, you know, negatively hit by what's happening, while some are booming. So how is that affecting not only how you communicate, but who you communicate with, the style of advertising that you might be running as a marketing team? Are you moving out of selling mode into, as Chris said, you know, serving mode, helping them overcome their challenges? Is that what your content is speaking to? I certainly know that at Sugar, you know, there's definitely been some industry segments and activities that we have very purposely and intentionally dialed down, to take account of that. And I think as well, you know, from a marketing perspective, there's never been a more important time as well to treat every account like an early stage opportunity. And I don't mean by that think sales first. What I mean is engage, nurture. You know, there will be a rebound. We don't know when, we don't know how, and we certainly don't know what it's going to look like. So, you know, very important that you think about how you continue to engage in a meaningful way, serving up content that helps your prospects as well as your customers and overcome the challenges that they have today. And that leads me into, you know, my second point here, Clint, which is, by God, you know, educational content is key right now. You know, the best practices webinars, the practical 5 tips, you know, on how to
engage, right? Like what we're doing right now. To be very frank, right? Exactly. What are we doing right now?
Exactly. You know, they're the gestures that your prospects and your customers, you know, will remember. To start to think, you know, again, for the marketing folks out there, you know, start to think about how you can build up, you know, a library of content that you can serve up to your customers and your prospects in chapter-sized bites. That take them on a journey. And that notion of journey, because we don't know when this situation is going to end, is key.
So it's kind of like, you know, especially during a downturn, everybody talks about the number one priority is retention. Keep your existing customers. Don't lose your customers to somebody else, right? And talk about there, you know, how do you make sure you retain those customers? And how do you take your customer service activities and strategies and put them at the forefront? And I even liked, you know, kind of tying some of what you said back to what Chris said. You know, Chris was saying how you have to take your salespeople and turn them into service people, right? You have to take your salespeople and get them really oriented around the idea of retention and keeping them through that engagement. So I think that's to me why the idea of aligning and marketing and service is so critical in a period like this, is because frankly, you know, your entire company are customer service agents, right? Your entire company has to be focused on retention. I like that idea. I like that
And
idea.
I think, Clint, just one more thing that I want to encourage, the audience here today, to put at the forefront of their efforts is innovation. Right now, rapidly, prototyping, iterating, getting ideas with your sales and customer service and marketing counterparts into minimal viable state is a good thing. We are more accepting in this unique moment of things being not quite perfect, right, in terms of the way that they are delivered. That's a real opportunity for you as a business to innovate, to think about how you are going to differentiate. I mean, goodness only knows, how many emails did you guys get, 7-8 weeks ago about our response to COVID, our response to COVID?
I felt like I was reading the same email over and over as Groundhog Day, right? Every email
exactly.
just over and over and over.
Exactly. We purposely chose video to deliver.
That Chris was talking about, right?
Exactly. We purposely chose video as a medium because we didn't see anybody else using it. It's a real, that's a very simple but meaningful example of how think about what you're doing and how you're communicating, and use this time to experiment, to A/B test in your marketing endeavors.
Claire, I think a really important point here that comes through is Winston Churchill said, "Never let a crisis go to waste." And I think those are really poignant things to bring to bear. We are in a uncertain times. No one can deny that. But I think it's better to recognize it, and as you say, bringing innovation to bear and using the time productively to think through how can you make the most of it. And we've seen really good examples from customers on that.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to use that as a transition to our next topic in here. And I'll go back to just a really brief comment you threw in there, Claire, and I'll tease it out. You talked about how Craig, our CEO, recorded a video that we posted on every channel, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Of what our company response was to COVID, and that we were, open for business and we're still here and things like that. I might suggest back to our audience, if your CEO hasn't recorded a video, multiple videos that you've posted online, just really kind of connecting the fact that your business is open for business, I might suggest that that's probably a very, very practical takeaway out of today. Record that video, be personal, be real. And let's talk about this idea of being personal and being real around this concept of empathy. So Chris, often it's said that a core tenet of customer experience strategy is, is to connect with your customers, to act with empathy when servicing their needs. So how do companies achieve that ideal of empathy while also delivering on the practical realities of hitting their business objectives? Help me kind of walk this balance between empathy and hitting the numbers, or is there a balance that needs to be hit? You tell me about it. What do you think?
We're talking today about growth through service, and I think one of the key elements, there's a number of key points I want to bring out here. The first thing is not to make assumptions. We all know the dangers in assuming, and a part of that is deep listening to your customers. Understand that different customers are approaching this crisis in different ways. There are definitely those customers which are being severely hit at the front line, furloughing staff. You're not going to go and take an offer to them to sell them more solutions and services. That's simply, you just got to be practical in how you embrace it. So it comes down to personalizing how you deliver it, whether through being marketing automation, through content, through understanding. The second element, I think, there is to assume that there are people and customers that are actually thriving in this situation. And I think it's important to recognize across the board that you need to balance, you need to be empathetic and understanding where your customer is going to. One of the key aspects here that helps us drive in any customer experience is being in a situation that you're helping your customers succeed. In most practical examples here at the moment, one of the things that I think is important is to recognize that we're in this together. Globally, we're in this together. And I think strong companies do need to help. We're going to come out of this together. And the one thing to do there is to think that business empathy and personal empathy need to coexist. We all have a personal empathy to individual situations. But one of the elements here which I think is important for us to recognize, I quite like the analogy on the airline when they're asking about fit your oxygen mask first before helping others. We do need to be in a situation of recognizing that together we will come through this. So we do need to keep this thing moving forward.
Saving your business can't put me out of business, but I'm here to help you, though, right? So somewhere along those lines. Yeah.
And one of the most practical things that we've seen is customers is talking about flexible payment terms. We see that again and again in this process. Yeah. You need to be judicial in how you manage that. We're not banks, but you have a proportion of your customers that are deeply troubled, and I think this is where compassion and empathy comes to the forefront. It doesn't mean blatantly giving flexible payment terms to everybody of your customer base, but it's about making sure that you can preserve and retain those customers, and you can make sure that your strong customers recognize that you're there to help. I think at the end of the day, the other thing to recognize is we are all social creatures. And I think that the element there that people like to talk to people like to share with people, people like to engage. And I put it down to what I call the 3 Bs. You need to be connected, you need to be informed, but you also need to be human. And I think it's one of the things that here at Sugar we try and bring through very strongly, that as a company, yes, we're a technology company, but we're actually about trying to improve the outcomes for our customers on the long haul. And I think that comes down to, again, this concept. You talked before, Clint, about effortless customer experience. And for me, what I'm trying to equate this to, in my view, is there's a lot of alignment between what I see. There's a lot of talk in business today of the difference between management and leadership. And I see, to some degree, a lot of correlation or heavy alignment between customer experience and strong leadership. If you're a strong leader, people follow. And what you need to be able to drive in your business is a customer experience where you're building a tribe where your customers want to follow you. And that's, I think, an element here whereby to do that, to be a strong leader. I think back to Brené Brown in a Dare to Lead series, talking about empathy and vulnerability, that ability to recognize in the moment that you're there as a human being trying to balance your objectives with your customers' objectives. And I think if you drive that, if you try and go back to your example, Clint, of Amazon, you want your experience of purchasing online to be effortless. You need to lead our customers down a pathway where they want to follow us, not because they're compelled to get a gift card. That's a byproduct, not the objective or goal. So I think there's a number of things here which are important to recognize in how we go about driving that. But in my view, I think to some degree it's about making sure you recognize those traits which make strong leaders, those traits that recognize we're social creatures, those traits that recognize that we're in it together. They're all critical elements that go through, I think, how we need to adapt and perhaps demonstrate to our customers that we're here. It's an important aspect that leadership and hope and core values, authenticity, they're really critical elements that do come through.
You know, in there, I was talking to the CEO of one of our business partners. They do implementation services for SugarCRM. They're a smaller business, right? You know, somewhere around $20-30 million a year in revenue. You know, for some people on the line, that might be a big business. For other people on the line, it might be a small business. But he considers himself a small business owner, and he's got about 200 customers. And what he described to me, what he did is he went out and he called every one of his customers. This was in that initial response phase. Called every one of his customers and said, 3 things. First off, we're healthy. We're open for business. My people are ready to go. They're working from the home office and just, want to be really clear. We're here and ready to support you. Second point that he made was, if you're hurting as a business, if this is impacting you, I got it. And let's figure out how I can help you, right? And let's figure out what we can do to make things work for you. And then the third point he made was, if it's not hurting you, if the current crisis isn't hurting your business, please place an order now. Please, let's work together on projects now. Let's accelerate projects. Let's make things happen now. I'm trying to run a business that's here long term from you. I need your business. And what he said came out of that was, yeah, he ended up doing a couple small projects for free for a few customers to help them kind of get through the final stages of their CRM implementations. But he had other customers who came in who did accelerate projects. And I think what came out of that was he was just very genuine. He was very clear. He was being a leader. He was putting the cards on the table. If you can drive projects, let's do them now. If you can't pay for projects right now, let's figure out how to help. So I think that's to me, that's kind of a real practical example of balancing business with empathy. Let's take this to the last question here that I want to get into with you guys today, which is the one that I know I'm personally ready for. I don't know how this is all going to play out ahead of us. I'm not an economist, right? People talk about the V-shaped rebound, the U-shaped rebound, and I go, yeah, how about the NOW rebound? That's the one I want. But with that said, let's talk about how to plan for it. I'd love to hear from you both. What are suggestions that you guys can give to our audience of how they can be planning for the rebound? And Claire, why don't you go ahead and kick it off for us?
Sure. I mean, I think you said it quite nicely there, Clint. There is no tailor-made plan. There is no playbook. So I think the first thing that you need to remember, both as an individual, as a lead, as a contributor, as a leader, as a team, as a business, is be flexible because you don't know what the rebound's going to look like, and you don't know when it's going to come. But that being said, hugely important right now that you take the time to listen, to gather the insights that you need to develop the plan for the rebound. From a marketing perspective, what does your website traffic look like? How has it changed? Which segments are visiting? Look at your email engagement. Look at your social media engagement. There are many and multiple channels that you are using to either help educate the market on how you can help, and or directly help them. Understand those channels, distill what they are telling you about what your customers are doing differently. Speak to your customers, speak to your partners, blimey, speak to your own internal teams. I'm sure Chris is going to talk about some of the investments that we've made, in technology that's helping us, listen better to both our employees, but also our customers. But I think it's really important too, Clint, that as you listen, that you take action. Once you understand what it is that your prospects and your customers are doing differently, run collaborative working sessions, creative brainstorming sessions, on how you want to address those changes. I talked about, remaining flexible. You need the plan A, plan B, and plan C. There is no master plan.
And we did that planning ourselves. When you say A, B, C, I was thinking about how we went through a planning scenario for the V-shaped curves, the quick rebound, the U-shaped curve,
exactly,
the slow rebound, and then we did our own disaster planning. If there's no quick rebound in sight, how do we plan then? So yeah, plans A, B, and C. Yeah. And if your leadership team hasn't done that yet, they need to start on that right away.
They really, really do. And then I think the other thing, that's important as you plan for the rebound is keep a keen eye on the competition. Yes, it's super important to be listening and responding and working with your customers and for your customers, but don't forget the folks that are ready to bite on your Achilles heel the minute that the situation changes. And in fact, they probably already are right now. So keep a keen eye on what the competition are doing. What are they changing? How are they adapting? What new products are they introducing? How are they adjusting their pricing strategy? And you have to stay one step ahead of that, because that will make the difference, not just for the rebound, but quite frankly right now, between just thriving and surviving.
I like those ideas. Chris, what do you got to add in here? What do you think?
I think it's a very key point on that in making sure that when the rebound comes, you're not caught flat-footed. And I think that's a key element that you're emphasizing there, Claire. We've seen the response in different organizations, that some organizations have been able to repurpose staff and resources to double down on internal elements to strengthen capability. Other organizations, as you say, are more in crisis mode and probably not at that point at the moment. But if you are in a position where you can redirect effort, I come back to, again, a mantra I've had for the last 25 years in the service industry, which is you need to be consistent, repeatable, and scalable. And these three elements, they bake into your internal fabric of how you organize your business, how you organize your response to customers. It goes back to this concept of if things are effortless, it's because expectations are met. There's a consistency in how you engage with your customers. There's a repeatability in what you do that drives, what do they say, that is just, practicing long enough will develop the correct habits. And the other aspect there is scalability. I might emphasize that one a bit more. At the moment, we're seeing adaptability as a key trait in this element. But you do need to be able to scale up and down and work out how you approach that. So come back to that concept that in the planning that you're doing, the A, B, C plans for what type of recovery will be coming, be consistent, be repeatable, be scalable in your mindset in how you go about things. And I think on that basis, you also probably need to think about skating to where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is today. We all know in a classic, I think you want to be ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. I think some things you're saying, Claire, about be mindful, be watchful of what your competitors are doing. Think internally. I think when you go back to your aligning marketing strategy, what content can you be producing now? How do you actually get to where you are identifying where the money is going to flow from? If governments are pouring money into infrastructure, we saw that in the 2008 recession. There are pockets of elements where money does flow. Start to think about how you can adapt your services and strategies around achieving that. Those are critical elements, I think, to bring to the forefront.
Yeah, I was talking to another CEO recently, and he threw out an analogy that I really liked. Is that when think of it kind of from the perspective of a manufacturer, when the production lines aren't moving, now is the time to paint the factory, right? And the whole idea there is when things are slow, invest for the future, invest for when the rebound happens. And as I think about all these concepts together here, kind of wrapping it up and keeping mindful of the time and taking us in for a landing. But the kind of ideas that we've crafted here, and I really like this as you talk this through, is there's three phases to think about from a business perspective. There's the initial response, there's the executing on the new normal, and then there's planning for the rebound. And to a large degree, we're past the initial response, right? We all scrambled. We all got our different communications out there. We got our people working from home effectively. We figured out how to run the business in a new way. And the new normal it's about customer retention, right? You have to keep a hold of your customers. And so how do you take all of your customer service and engagement best practices and put them at the front of the company? And have everybody, your sales team, your marketing team, everybody engaged in retention activities, creating content, helping people be successful with your products and services, maybe in new and different ways, like Madison Reed turning their stylists into online coaches, and embrace the idea of the new normal. But you have to take time to plan for the future. And a big part of planning for the future is all these things that you've done to embrace the new normal, all of these customer retention activities, all of this content that you're creating, all this energy that you're putting into making sure that your customers are effectively getting value out of your products and services. How do you turn that into the core of your growth strategy as we go into the rebound? That's how you need to be thinking about it. That's how we're thinking about it here at Sugar. That's our encouragement to you as well. And as we think about those ideas, I want to encourage everybody on the line here to continue the conversation. We've got some great blog posts on the Sugar blog, Experience Economy and the CX During Trying Times. We've got a great newsletter that we're pushing out ideas and our own content to you. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Carry on the conversation there. We're the three of us are there participating in the dialogue and all those different channels. And then of course, we've got the traditional communication channels wide open, both email and phone. So get a hold of us, carry on the conversation. But what I'd like to do now as we go into these last 10 minutes or so is open it up for Q&A.
So One of the questions that came in is someone asked, is it possible to put an ability for a message we can put on our customer support portals?
There you go. So it wouldn't be a good software webinar if we didn't have a feature request coming to us. I like that. So looking here and from Ed asking for us to put in the ability to publish messages in our customer support portals. That's a great idea. Take that right back to the engineering team today. Certainly within your own website tools, being able to do that should be there. But I think what you're asking for is maybe to have that directly within our product, the ability to post messages out to the support portal. Like that idea a lot. What else do we got there, Ali? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got another one. How do you get educated on the customer experience topic? Do you have a favorite book or website or blog?
Yeah, that's a good one to put out to Chris and Claire. Too many C's at the company. Clint, Chris, Craig, Claire, Claire and Chris.
Sorry, I have a number of sources I think that help me in this area, and I listen to things and I read different items. So on the listening front, there's a couple of key areas. I love TED Talks. So there's a raft of TED Talks that I regularly listen to and subscribe to help drive things. Particularly, I'm going to go back to the element. I try to look at the angle that links leadership with CX experience. So I try to use the TED Talks to drive that aspect. I find also the TSIA has very good webinars. So Technology Service Industry Association, they do great webinars that help from a broader CX experience. From a reading perspective, there's a couple. I think if I go back, I recently picked up a book by an Australian author, Transforming CX, and it was a really helpful, practical guide. That's something that I've been reading recently. But I think if I go back, one of the ones that stands out for me as a long term is a book by David Meister, which is The Trusted Advisor. And I think sometimes in these situations, we absolutely need to adapt and recognize that we're in a digital virtual change with AI, but there are some underlying principles which are enduring. And so I would recommend that as a good book to read. I don't know about you, Claire?
So I too listen to the TED Talks. I also have a former colleague, Nancy Port. If you guys do not follow her, you should. She's been a CX practitioner for some 15 plus years. And
what was that name again?
Nancy Port. She's hugely inspiring. You'll see her publish on Customer Think, which is another great resource, by the way, an online publication. If you don't read that, you should. And they have a fairly steady cadence there of blogs from a whole host of thought leaders. But yeah, my former colleague, Nancy Port, she just is highly practical. I think the opposite end of the TED Talk spectrum, where I think TED Talks is a great resource for inspiration. Nancy, for me, grounds it in how do I get started? How do I make that real? Blake Morgan is also somebody who I respect hugely. Author, speaker, podcast. I mean, there's not a lot that this woman. She's fairly prolific. There's not a lot that this woman hasn't done. And, latterly, she's been very much focused on that new modern type of customer and how, you need to respond to that. So, yeah, a variety of sources. I mean, at the end of the day, Clint, CX is probably one of those topics where we are not wanting in terms of material, right?
Yeah, lots of material. I liked Chris's idea to go find a theme within CX and go dig into that. His theme is the leadership side of building a CX experience. I like that. That was a good suggestion. I myself personally, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn Learning. I actually spend a lot of my time. I read science fiction for fun, and I listen to business materials for when I'm working out and that sort of thing for a different kind of fun. So LinkedIn Learning is when I'm doing my workouts, I listen to that. Those courses there. There's some really nice hour-long practical courses on how to put ideas to work. So that would be my suggestion. Ali, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we have a couple more in here. One is, learning good CX from bad CX. So what is customer experience mistakes that you see companies making over and over?
Oh, the mistake side, you bet. That's a good one. Chris,
You want me
you
to?
probably see it the most from your view of being a chief customer officer and running the world of support and services. What are mistakes that you've seen happen out there?
I think one of the mistakes we see over and over again, I'll characterize this by two aspects. One is in a situation where you need to act, whether there's an escalation or a crisis. I see two mistakes which commonly occur with customers. One is a lack of expediency in the audience, in the organization. And the second is a continuous reliance on email as a primary mode of communication. Email has a fantastic place in all manner of communication, but one of the elements which is very difficult from us, what a defining element in customer experience is when you get a flashpoint. A flashpoint where, customer is either upset or there's a crisis or there's a need for engagement, and you simply cannot convey tone in an email. And yet I repeatedly see organizations try to communicate in moments of flashpoints through email. So I'd say that's a mistake that we see. I don't know about you, Claire. Do you see similar things or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think from just to continue what you were saying there, from a marketing standpoint, the proliferation of all the different channels that, people can use to talk about your brand, I think has opened up a dialogue that is both positive and negative, and ignoring the negative, to sort of continue along that theme, Clint, is one of the biggest mistakes that I think you can make as a brand. But for me, I want to come back to your people, because the experience that you offer your customers starts with your people, how they engage, the tone that they use, the communication channels that they, that they dial up, that they dial down, how they respond in a crisis. For me, that's where the experience starts. And, recruiting and nurturing, as a leader myself, making sure that you have that, the team that thinks customer first, but that also you create the right kind of environment to socialize the ideas and the creative things that put the customer first is key. And so, no amount of process, technology, can really put that cherry on the cake for you with your experience without your people.
And if one of those mistakes happens, if your organization, for whatever reason, doesn't create that effortless experience, what would you guys want the customers to do?
Tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you, I think you want them to be.
Do you think every company facilitates
honest.
that part of the conversation?
No, no. And I think that's also a mistake. It comes back to the point I was just making, Clint, about feedback. If one of your customers or a group of your customers are telling you that they're not satisfied with the response time to a support ticket, with, being on your marketing segmentation list and the types of communication that you're sending, with the content that you're serving up, with the sales process that you go through, I think it's incredibly important that you distill, you discuss, and you respond to that feedback. Doesn't mean to say that the customer's always right, just to put that one out there, but listening and responding is key, Clint.
There you go. All right, listening and responding is key. Why don't we use that as our wrap-up point here? I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. We have audience members from around the world. We are living in trying times. Absolutely. This is a once in a generation event, hopefully, right? Once in a century event, hopefully. And the way we get through this is by we work together and we figure out what that new normal is and we plan for the rebound together. And I appreciate your time spending with us as we share our ideas with you. I'm looking in the questions area, and one of my favorite people in the world, Claudia Sosa. Hi, back to you, Claudia. She said hi in the question area to me. It's been many years since I visited you down in Buenos Aires. Looking forward to doing that again. This is the fun part, connecting people to people, even though it's over a virtual connection. This is how you keep your business succeeding, even thriving in the time like this. Now is the time to paint the factory. Now is the time to invest in the future. Now is the time to embrace these new channels of communication more than anything else. And if anything, I wish you the best and have a very successful set of months ahead of you, and be safe. Be healthy and be safe to all of you. So much. Thank you again so much for your time. Appreciate you coming. Please carry on the conversation, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Ali, back to you for any last comments.
Just as a reminder to everyone, we will be sending out the recording. I'm going to guess about 2 to 3 business days. And beyond that, everybody have a wonderful day.